working on the simulator, which was what I was doing before. Now it's a bit more obvious, it's a simulator. I think in my latest videos, it wasn't necessarily clear what I was working on, but then I kind of, wait, how do I go to YouTube Studio? So hard to find your videos, content. So, Ask Studio, no. I have like a 6-part stream, and the last one was like 1.5 months ago, and basically I was doing the protocol. Since then I've done a bunch of changes. Things are much more stable on at least that side of things. Oh my god, is this the fuck is this? So the protocol is much more stable, and maybe I can give you like a small tour about what changed. Let me also update the contact sales. What? No, leave me alone. Go on to contact sales. So, today I want to work a bit on collisions. But before I do that, let me start the chat. It's a chat.io/chat. This was the link. If I recall correctly, I would do something like this. Make this very, very, very small. If I can do it very small. Oh, this is the smallest I can do. No, I don't think so. Chromium. Yeah, but I would do something like this because Chromium can go even smaller. You know, Chromium can be tighter. There you fucking go. Alright, does this work? Should give me like, I think it works. Alright, cool. So, this is my chat. And in order to make it, I need to press double click very fast. Let me show what I mean. Yeah, there you go. When you press double click, there is this list. If you press outside of the tab, there's this other list. And if you press on in between the things somewhere, or at least on these things, this is where Linux kicks in, and it's this thing, and I want to press always on top because I want to see this every time. Okay, so let me show you what I have so far. Just a very small tour. I've done a lot of changes, and maybe not all of them are present or obvious. So right now I have the following. I have a client server architecture, and this is what I had before as well, right? So basically I start the server, and okay, now I have textures, I have a bunch of other things. I have some models for the drones, everything is static. Okay, so this is like the server, and from the server you cannot really control the drones. You have like some static objects and some dynamic objects, right? And the drones are dynamic, but in order to control the drones you need to connect to them. It's very similar to how you would do it on like a real drone, right? And if you connect to it, you basically can control it. Basically, if you click on this screen, you can control it. And there's a bunch of things. So for example, as you saw earlier, we had that collision, and this is what we want to improve today. And there are some basic controls, right, for this collision. Just afraid of me hitting the cat because she's like close. Alright, so you can do this. And yeah, there is some lag. I think it's because of the streaming. As you can see, like everything is laggy, but I blame the streaming for this. I think it should hopefully go away. There you go. Alright, and the nice thing is that, okay, you can do it in a repeat. Basically, you can connect to the next one, client, localhost. And this is why basically I had to use SDL, because before I think I was using PyInput, and with PyInput you cannot really, it is like a global keyboard, right? So basically I would press W here and it also send W here and like everything, because it wouldn't be scoped, the window, like the controls wouldn't be scoped. But now as you can see, like this is drone 1, this is drone 2. So from this point of view we already have like multiple drones. They are connected, they are like on the same map, which is this. Now, The collision side, as you can see, like let's go to a box or something. Let's go to maybe this box here, and let's try to go like a bit above it. I don't know to go if I need to press an FM, which I don't have on this keyboard. Yeah, I have FM. Okay, never mind. And if you go here, okay, maybe that was a good guess. Actually, let's look at it. So I go a bit down. I try to, okay, it's still good. But let's keep going down a bit, maybe like this. And as you can see, like collision itself is a bit weird. Like just look at how it happens, right? Let's see how I can go closer. Like the collision is not what you would expect, basically. Yeah, and the lag is because of the streaming. Holy shit, I don't know exactly why. And you would say like, okay, maybe it's not realistic, but it's like too unrealistic at this point, and I don't quite like it. Okay, so it's not yet hitting it, but if I go like maybe a bit down, yeah, look. So, and now the question is why this happens. Some other thing that I've added is I have this wireframe mode, right? So you can see this is basically just calling OpenGL and setting the wireframe mode. This is not a big thing. So wireframe mode is basically don't interpolate the colors between the triangles. So basically the faces are empty, and this is a very good mode for like seeing the meshes. But then I added another one, which is when I press on O, so for I, wireframe is on I, but when I press O, you can see the collision boxes, and then of course you can change the mode. This, as you can see, only happens for the server, so the client doesn't get this debugging mode. By the way, if you go in the first person view in the server, you can also go to the first person view of it, so you can scroll robot 1, robot 2, which is the same as, right, it's the same view as here. If you press again, you get the same screen as here, but obviously this is like server side stuff. This is like client side stuff. But when you press O, okay, there is also a top down view, by the way. So first thing to notice is that not all of the things, because this is, yeah, it's the first person view. So technically I can like slightly control it, and maybe this is like a bug. But as you can see, like it goes back because it's not like natural. I'm trying to move the camera, and because the camera has its own controls, you move the camera, but then the robot is like, wait, the robot hasn't moved, and I update the camera again to the previous position. So this happens just for one frame, and then basically it's like readjust. But for that one frame it moves, so I need to like, actually the drone never moves. It's just the camera that moves, and then the camera gets immediately updated to the original position. But anyway, let's go in the free mode. As you can see, this one doesn't have any, so this is just a random object from the internet with textures and all. And this one is actually not collidable, so I only draw the collidable ones. The ground is also collidable, but I have a special check for that, so you don't, like, because the ground is currently implemented as a special collision box, it's not a sphere, which is what I'm trying to work on today. And now what I'm saying is that this box here, wherever it is, this house, let me find the house. Where is the house? There you go. This doesn't have any collision, right? So you go through it, but the boxes have collision. And as you can see, that when they collide, by the way, you get like a small color. So you're like, okay, this thing collides with this, and this would be useful. For example, you have like some busy waiting, or like things like colliding too much or whatever. There's a small pushback, so when you go, it goes back, and this is like all implemented in the collision system. But one of the issues, and by the way, this one, I wonder if this gets perpetual collision or not, but I don't think so. I think I only check collisions between robots and objects. I don't check collision between objects and objects. So this one is never checked, but technically they are colliding. Oh yeah. Because robots are like special objects in this, they're like entities, right? So when you think about an entity system, basically I call them scene objects because I'm not a game developer, and for me it makes more sense to call them scene objects, but sure, let's think they're entities, whatever. Entities, how Tony would say. And basically what I'm trying today to do is I'm trying to add new types of collisions. So basically this is the sphere, and I have a basic sphere versus sphere collision. And now in order to do this kind of debugging, I did a bunch of how I would call it. I have like a very simple playground, again inspired by SodingStream. Basically I have this collision 2D where I only import from the library, which would be like the game engine, just the collision part. Let's see, can I keep this smaller because it's like too big? Maybe put it here. Okay. And this particular oh, by the way, one interesting thing is that all my tests are in Bash. Actually, this is why I'm using Claude. So I have like 6 tests so far, and they are all trying to test a bunch of use cases. I don't have any unit or integration tests yet. I will start adding integration tests very soon, or maybe even unit tests on some specific things that I want to make sure I get right. But I didn't want to do integration tests or unit tests because, I mean, again, for unit tests, if you're testing like the math stuff, that's fine. But if you start testing like implementation details, that's wrong. Integration tests also are based on like the interfaces and the boundaries, and the problem is that I've changed the boundaries so many times between interfaces until I got to the current point, and it's still uncertain if this is the ideal way. So for example, for the physics system, recently I made the physics thing return like a dictionary between all the things that have collided, and before it was not true. So basically now it's returning all the collisions of like a particular I mean all the collisions from the last physics stick, as I call it, right? Because you may, so you want the physics to be consistent. There is this blog post, how was it called, like fix your physics or something, fix your physics, go 2004 blog post, fix your time step, there you go. I mean, I found this thing, it's like 2004, holy shit, it's like 22 years ago, and this guy, like, you know, I had this issue, right? And the main idea that he describes here is that basically the physics should be independent from the rendering. So you'd have like the physics state, and you'd have like the render state, or the render step as 2 different states. So basically you have this inner physics loop, and you have to be very careful that this runs at a constant time step, otherwise you are at the mercy of your frames per second. And what he's trying to do here is that, okay, my physics has to be consistent at this dt, I think he just said it, okay, it's dt is 0.0, so that means 100 updates per second. Meanwhile, the render is whatever your computer can do. And in order to fix this, basically you have this accumulator, and if you run at 30 FPS, but your physics runs at 100 Hertz, which is basically FPS, but generic, that means you are like, you need to do a lot more physics. You need to do like 3.3 times more physics. And what he's doing here with this accumulator is basically, okay, let's do 3 steps of physics for 1 step of rendering, and then let's also keep back that 0.3 that's still holding. And then the next frame you also do 3 steps of physics for like 1 step of render. The third time you actually do 4 steps of physics because this accumulator keeps adding like the 0.3 part. And now you have 4 physics steps for one rendering, and so on. So basically you need to decouple everything that's physics from everything that's rendering, because rendering is at the mercy of your hardware, while this one should be independent. Otherwise, you know, you get like your speed dependent on your FPS, which is completely wrong, because, you know, like the idea is that time is constant, right? Time goes forward in a single direction, while rendering, well, if you think about your like mind, like you may render at slower speeds than you think, right? And basically also, let's put it the other way. You render at some speed, like how fast you can like parse a scene or whatever. But the universe doesn't care about your speed. Like the universe happens, like things fall, like they go at like this, what was like the smallest unit time was the Planck unit or something, right? What time? So it's the Planck time, it's the fundamental unit of time, which is this small. So the universe works at this. Our simulator doesn't work at this. Because the time light takes to travel one Planck length in vacuum. The shortest measurable time interval. Now we don't know if time is faster than this, but this is the best we can like understand at a theoretical level at the moment. So this is what we think is the fastest thing, and basically it says, okay, how much does it take light to travel one Planck length, which is probably the smallest distance that the fundamental unit length. It represents the scale at which classical gravity and general relativity break down. And this is where you need quantum gravity. So basically, there may be a thing where you have this quantum time thing. But anyway, so what I'm trying to say is that time is constant and rendering is not. And this is why I need to decouple them. And this is what I did here. And the main loop also kind of does this in a nice way. Where is my main loop? Basically, my main loop is quite simple. It was much more complicated before. So you have like the input output. Okay, so you have this is basically this clock thing is basically working with the physics to do exactly what I said earlier. So basically this says, okay, we want 60 FPS. There may be maybe we need to wait a bit, right? Because maybe you actually finished too fast. And then you add this, like, okay, let's add a new time step. Then you do all the input output stuff. Then you do this, which may run multiple times. So as I say here, can be one subtick. I call it subtick for each render tick. So render tick is based on FPS and subtick is based on render tick is based on basically your current FPS, which is variable, and this one is based on the fixed physics, and this is the while that the blog post talks about. And then we do post-processing, so we update stuff based on like collisions, whatever else can happen, and we'll maybe in the future we'll have like more complicated stuff happening in the physics, like wind or whatever, like moving your object. Like the drone has wind perturbations or whatever. And then this is where you update the camera. So this is where you see that where I move the camera with W, because that's a bug. You shouldn't be able to move the camera with W. You should only be able to move like top-down camera, and the free camera, but not the first-person camera. That doesn't reflect in the client, obviously. But then at the next frame, you get it back, because the position of the robot is not changed, just the camera that's trying to move forward. Alright, manual movement. Okay, so this is what I'm saying earlier. This is where that thing happens. Wondering if I put this in reverse, will it still happen? Because I do the manual movement. So basically this happens for one frame, but this could happen for like less than one frame. But the bug is still there, so it doesn't matter. This would just minimize like the render issue. Or maybe it wouldn't, because I think this would fix them if I put them the other way around, because we render only after this step. So if I change this, well, that fix it. Just the bug is there, but maybe this is just simpler. Now let's see. Server, and then I go here. Okay, now it doesn't happen anymore. Let's just validate that this was it. I go F3. Yeah. Okay, that was interesting. So I just basically I move the camera, but then I move it back. And I guess for freeform I can move, but for this one, okay, I think this is better. Okay, then I render everything. Basically render the cameras, and this only happens if the robot is connected, by the way. So if the robot is not connected, don't compute it, because it's like wasteful work. Otherwise, connect it and save the data in this structure, this data class, and then this data class is like sent through the wire. I'm using a TCP connection for all the clients that are connecting. This is obviously very inefficient, but this is the only way to have like multiplayer stuff. Like you need to send stuff through the internet, and this is how we do it. We render the camera. I mean, I do server-side rendering. This is server-side rendering. I could do client-side rendering, but that would mean like the client would also need to be a graphical application and have like the state of the world. And instead of that, I went through the simpler route of, instead of sending the state of the world, I send the camera, basically the rendered camera. I compress it using AABB, and it works decent. It's not zlib, what? Maybe I don't do it here. Again, TCP connection. What? Where do I send it? Hold up. I mean, I should do it in global handler, but I don't see it. I mean, fast handler, I'm sorry, I should do it here. This part. Oh, because I do it with FPV compress, and FPV compress is actually a property, and I'm using zlib. Okay, so this happens in this camera. It's a bit of like, Python helps you with this stuff. Like, you can hide complexity in properties, and some people don't like it. They say like, no, properties should only do, should only access stuff, and maybe they're true, and maybe I could call it like get frame processed. Who knows? But I like it like this, because otherwise you would have to do like this, which probably would be a bit more obvious. But, you know, I like this pattern where I cache things like this, because why not? Compression level in 0, 9, or -1. I use just compression level 1. I don't think this is a bad thing. Clearly you can optimize this, by the way. Didn't think about it. Alright, so this is what we have now. And now I have this playground. The scope of this playground is basically to develop this kind of functions like the sphere-sphere collision that happens. I also have a sphere plane, but I need to get rid of this and have like a sphere box collision, which is again exactly what Solin has done, so he has inspired me to do this. Now there's another thing that I want to show you. I have this remarkable, which I'm not sure if I can use anymore. If I can use it would be great. But the chance of this just working is pin dash. I don't even know where it is. Where even is this? Holy shit. Yeah, pin to, okay, let's go. Pin to dash. That means it should be on the desk. It's not. Oh, it's here. It's with big M, but I don't know what it is. That is remarkable. Very remarkable. I do like this. Markdown parser. Yeah, it's not what I want. It's a bit annoying. Like every time I do this, I find myself in such a pain because I wish they had this integration with like the web thing. I really wish they had integration with the web because I just want to. I want to see my shit, basically, is what I'm trying to say. See, this is the problem. I have this Windows app only. And it's a bit annoying because if you're trying to do anything with the Windows app, one remark, let's say that cannot be used. Okay, 164 remark. So, one. Tricks? I don't fucking know. Very bad. But it says 164. This is the annoying part. Like, Wine is a 64-bit input. It can be used 30-bit. Wine server is 32-bit. What? I wish. Wine server 64. So I think I'm going on a bad route right now. And And the problem is that I also have a remarkable installed somewhere. Also have Proton. Oh, I do have Proton. Let's try again with Proton. Maybe Proton is. Wait. No. Proton. Fuck. Just Linux things, by the way. Remarkable. And then I try Proton remarkable. I mean, it doesn't work for other reasons, and like you go into these things and you realize that it's so fucking bad. I really wish remarkable worked. Just this guy. I don't know exactly what the command for that is. Web app. Wait, so there's also this web app which is screen share. Holy shit, can I do it? No, please tell me I can do it. Did they do this? If they do this and they don't ask me to like pay a shit ton of money, I'm so grateful. Let's see. Please let me do this. Share. Present with screen share. You will need version 320. Okay, let me maybe this is actually a new feature and I'm finally like able to use it. So it asks me to install, and the last version is, if only I could like press the fucking button. Okay, I'm restarting the remarkable, so I'm restarting it, and I hope the new version is 3.27. While this is happening and I'm like going so out of focus, probably I should show you how this runs. So tmax and okay, so I have test manual examples, and here I have this thing which has modes, which probably I should be smarter. Yeah, let's use the common pattern here. Get args, namespace, parser equals argument parser, not arguments, mode choices equals. And I probably should have these modes. Okay. Modes like this. Article parser args, args. And basically instead of mode should have args mode. Alright, awesome. So I need to namespace here. Alright, so that means I can do and I think I have a circle. If I can stream now from this thing, it's amazing. Invalid choice, because I don't know how to type. Okay, so I have a circle mode, which is basically this part. I have two functions. Get closest point on circle, which basically given a circle, x, y, so this is the center, and a radius, and given a second point, wherever that is, inside, outside, whatever, give me the closest point on the circle. Which, by the way, is such an interesting, because like it overlaps with it. You can see like but maybe I can fix that. I'm not showing the other point. I'm not showing the, if I put this the other order, maybe this actually draws properly. No, it doesn't. I don't see the point on the first circle, unfortunately. Interesting. Anyway, so I have a point on each circle. And then if you collide, so red is not collision, green is collision. Maybe I should do it the other way around, but you know. should do green here and red here. I think that's probably more standard. So it's red when colliding, green when not colliding. So as you can see, I'm running that function twice, and it gives me like the point on each circle. So you see like the small circle on the on the boundary of the circle. So now the question is, how do you do that? How do you find like the closest point on a circle from a circle? In turns out the math is interesting. Couldn't figure it out on the first time. I went on this very bad route of trying to write it as ax plus by plus c. So this is like the equation of a line. And basically what I'm trying to find here is a, b, and c. And I know like, because basically you have the two centers, which is these ones. So you have like two equations, you have three unknowns, a, b, and c, so this is a bit bad. And because of that, you have like two solutions, one each is on the left. Basically, you're trying to find the line, and then you're trying to find the point on the line between the two circles, and it's not good. Like, there was an easier way to do this, and initially I didn't understand it. I used a bit of Claude to help me with like how to properly think about it, to be honest. Okay, can I stream? If I can stream, I'm so happy. Present with screen share. What? I want to screen share, dude. Where is the... Oh, I closed the tab. Apparently I did. It was on my remarkable, okay. Screen share, yes. 3-dot menu on your paper tab and press share and press present with screen share. I did. I'm connected. I'm connected to the app or whatever the thing is. Present with screen share. What do I do? It doesn't appear like that. You only have send to email and I don't have this part, but I have, okay, I have the screen share thing. Oh, screen share enact. Why? Do you think this is just, so you need version 3.27 or newer? I wonder what version that. I have version, let's see, does it say newer? General. Software. 3.26. Check for updates. Oh, 3.27, I have a new one. There's also an advanced beta program. Oh my god. Data loss. Alright, maybe not that. Okay, let's try. Okay, so I'm installing, even though it said there is a new version, there is a new version. I think this is a new thing. And to be honest, exactly what I need. This is why I'm going on this little bit of tangent, because now I'm trying to see if Remarkable actually is remarkable finally after like, I have this for 4 years and I've been using it for notes and stuff, like not as much as I could have. And I think this is true for all the note taking like things, because I don't know, it's hard to take notes, but every now and then the only way I could like, and I can show you through here like whatever the stuff I have, like if it's shared, not, oh my god, really? It's not updated? It should be. I have this. Yeah, RoboSim architecture, there we go. So I have a bunch of like stuff. Oh yeah, I could have just used this. Actually, it's not synced. Yeah, I couldn't, because actually maybe it is. So as you can see, this is where I started doing like the physics loop that I talked earlier. So I'm writing stuff. This is where I did the events. So basically I have this plugin system which kind of combines events with the physics loop, and events basically are like, so imagine you have like plugins, and plugins may influence the way your game works. Actually, maybe I should show you the plugins also. And you're trying to see, so basically at the moment I have this manual movement plugin which allows you to like control the drone, and basically this defines the protocol. Like you have the move command, But then you may also have other plugins, and I have two plugins at the moment, and yeah, I think I should have shown you that. And plugins basically allow you to enhance the simulator. So this is like adding levels to your game. It's very similar to that. So maybe let's go on that tangent for a while, as while Remarkable is loading. So I have server.py, and then if I do plugin, which one was mission trajectory? I think so. It will hopefully tell me which ones are available. Totally told me. Hold up. Add a plugin. Yeah, I mean, sure. How do I do this in less lines? Can I do it in less lines? Okay, and I have this, which is plugins equals, and I get this, all of that. Actually, maybe it's even better, and it's plugins. This is like a global thing. This is kind of how you define that, and you put this shit here, or maybe here. Plugins, and this is how you register plugins. And now it should tell me that it should be trajectory mission. Trajectory mission. And if you have this plugin enabled, then you connect a client. Alright, connect a client. Now, look at this. Now this mission, I mean this server is a bit different now. So basically what you can do, you can press U, if I recall correctly. No, it's not U, it's I, maybe? U, Y, okay, so I think it's Y. You press Y. Let me go back to the, you press Y, and if you press Y, you get these dots, and these dots are basically the via points. So basically where you want your drone to go. So this is like defining your trajectory, and then you press U, and it doesn't work because I think you need to press, wasn't it U? Oh shit, it's broken. Holy shit, it's broken. How is this broken? Because I didn't test it using this way. I'm testing it using the protocol. Okay, that's not a problem. So state robot plugin. I think this is a small issue. State robot pose. Interesting. So what is this thing? State. And failed on exactly that code. So maybe if I put a break on here, should be enough to. Oh yeah, I should have disconnected it. Yeah, so I press U, okay. Then I have a breakpoint here. And also state of the robot. Physics, holy shit, I added physics state. So it's state robot physics state pose. Alright, fair. State robot physics state. So how do I, maybe I should just make a variable for that. Pose. Pose. And pose equals this. And add physics state here. Will that fix it? That's it. Do I still have to previously put points? I do. Okay, cool. So I add like 2 more points. Alright. So I am here and I go here, and if I press Q, it crash again. Oh, I still have the breakpoint. Oops. Okay, if I do that, as you can see, it tries to go through the via points. Okay, the algorithm of actually computing the thing is not very good, as you can see here. It should go through the via points. It doesn't go through the via points, though it's interesting that it did this thing here, so that's because of the lag. So yeah, let's try again. If I try again, I need to press C again. Now it's a bit better, as you can see. Like the second time you run it, it kind of goes. So it went almost to the first one and went a bit back. Then I think now it's messed again. This one should have gone to this point, and then take probably a left here and then another left. So as you can see, like trajectory is not the best. So this part should have gone here, and then this line is this line, and then this curve is this curve. But it didn't properly do it. Anyway, let's try a third time. Or actually, I should close it. The problem is I have low FPS because I'm streaming, and it's not the most pleasurable way of coding. Oh, let's continue. And disable that breakpoint, it's annoying. Okay, let's close this. Let's try again. Press U. Let's see, maybe this time is good. It's not necessarily the best. It's better. Actually, it's not. Oh, it's buggy. Okay, so the trajectory part is not properly implemented. But this is like the mission plugin, right? And then I need to close server. I cannot like reload plugins yet. I have another one which is called race. And if you have race, like you have a bunch of points that are spawned for you by the plugin. So this is where like this entire event system, basically event system can create like new entities and can like create logic in your, this is how it designs levels pretty much, through like in a programmatic way. So yeah, we don't have like a special language or anything. Okay, so this installed. Okay, what's new? Read full notes. Can I stream? Oh, I have AI updates. No, leave me alone. I want to see if I can stream them for free. That's the only thing I care about. Let me also show you that. So the race one, basically what it says is that you need to go through all these points. Now, what's the first point? Basically, you need to follow the lines, and the first point should be the one with the green, so it's that one. And if you press O, you start the race, basically. And now, if you go through it, it disappears. And now you need to go to the next one. You probably should follow the lines, otherwise you get lost a bit, like I did. It can be a bit hard to do this if you don't know. Okay. Hold on. Where is the next one? I think it's oh, there you go, found it. Okay, so you go to take the next one, and you need to kind of remember that the next one is in your back, so it's okay, it's there, you see it. And basically, yeah, you just go and take one by one, and this is like the race plugin, and both of them are implemented with the same API. It's actually very little code once you figure out the nice. So this is supposed to be like the way people are adding functionality to the simulator, right? This borders a bit with like game design, like how do you design a level in such a way that it applies. So obviously not all the maps will be good for all the levels and so on, but this is kind of trying to add logic to the what is it called, to the scenes, basically. Oh my god. Okay, so let's try to get all of them if I'm still doing this. Yeah, this turns out to be more like a showcase stream than a trajectory stream, but maybe that's good, because yeah, this can be a bit fun to play with. Okay, and you go here, and finally you have the last one, which is there. And after you finish all of them, like nothing happens. You need to restart the game and implement any. Like, okay, you don't even know how much time it took, but you can find that out actually. How much time did it took? So in order to find that out, you need to do race status. Okay, and you have to use robocat ncad localhost -p. And you need to do race status, but it's not so straightforward how you do that, because you need to be connected to do that. And in order to because you need to do connect.n, and you need to do this. And now you see that this is the status of the mission. So there were 10 flags. It was started. These were the flag positions. Okay, cool. and then you have like the state of all the robots. I have two robots, okay. Okay, where is the state of each robot? So this is robot, race robot next flag. Oh, because there's two robots and this is the next flag, but because this big number means that the race is finished basically. This should be updated during the race, so you know like what's the next flag of each robot, so you know exactly how to render is how you change between green, and you also disable like you don't display all of them. So see, all of them are still here, they are not deleted, but you don't see them on this other screen because basically like I only want to display the ones that are still left, so that's why you don't see them here, but you see them in the server view. And then you see when it ended, and you see that the winner is ID 0, and yeah, basically this tells you like who won, when the race started, when the race ended, and basically between this you can kind of deduce how much time it took. So this is not yet implemented in the client side, so you don't see this, but I will make like a nice ceremony. Basically, I even have a task for that, like ceremony. Basically, like put a countdown, a hood, a banner, and so on. And the data is there. You just need to like make the UX a bit nicer. Okay, so let's see if I can finally use this thing. Screen share. Okay, let's try one more time. First, robotics. I think I put this on personal projects. Solutions. Okay. Share. Holy shit, you can do it. No way you can do it. Holy shit, this works. And how fast is it? Is it fast? Oh, it works. Okay. I need to go to the bathroom. And I will come back, because I cannot believe this works. And I will explain to you how we did the circle thing first, and then what we are doing for the circle rectangle case. The circle rectangle case is actually a coding stream, and I actually put a thing here, so you know, shout out to him. He's actually a great inspiration for me. The circle one, can I make this a bit? I went on a bit of a tangent here. It didn't work out. I mean, I got to a solution, and basically I could have asked like a solver or something to, okay, or put this, but it's so many things to do, as you can see. No, not okay. Oh my god. Oh, okay, didn't. So this is like a pointer, but it's like, okay, so if you hover, yeah, well, that's actually a nice feature. So basically you can hover, but it doesn't write. But if you go, it writes. Okay, that's cool. Okay, cool. Yeah. And then it turns out that the circle solution is so much simpler, and I will present it to you immediately. But let's go to the bathroom and come back. Oh my god, the laptop is burning. So trying to do the simulator thing and also stream at the same time. It turns out that this actually takes a lot of compute, and my laptop is trying its best. back. So, yeah, I'm quite grateful for the remarkable people to actually make this thing useful. Finally, you know, I could do it before, like the streaming part, but now, because it's just in a browser, it's so much better, simply because, again, like, I'm all for desktop apps, but there is no doubt that the web platform is good for distributing stuff, because everything has a browser. The standard is like quite stable, and basically, okay, you have like 3 core browsers implementing it, so due to like market pressure, they have to kind of collaborate. It's also like the biggest platform on computing right now. So, and then there's like this WebAssembly thing that will, you know, in the next 20 years probably become useful. I don't know how they built this screen sharing, maybe just WebSockets, I have no clue. And you know, the thing is, before they had the same technology on the desktop app, but as you can see, I cannot run the desktop app on Linux. I can through Wine, but like some point they said that their version is too old, and when I tried to install the new one, the Wine didn't work, or basically Wine bug. Alright, so this was my attempt. Yeah, I'm controlling it through. Okay, so can I do? Alright, amazing. Can I actually do it even? Okay, can I do? Wow, okay, I can't even do that. That's nice. So, this part up was my attempt of doing it the first time, because as you can see, I'm not very good at math, so I'm just okay. I'm like, I know the following thing. So the thing what I'm trying to solve is, okay, how do I find this point? Wait, can you not see it? Oh my god, like it is not properly aligned or something. That's fine. Okay, yeah. So, I'm trying to say is, can you get this point here? So the point on a circle. So given 2 points, basically given P0 and P1, P3 in this case, the question is, can you find the point P1 that lies on P0 or on the first circle? So, and this was my first attempt based on whatever I know. So I know this is like the equation of the line. This is the short equation basically, where you divide A by C and B by C, but it's fine. And it gets very complicated very fast. You have to use this thing from high school, and you get like a mess. And it turns out that if you know a bit of geometry, this is like five lines. So let's solve it again, just to. So what I'm trying to do. So I have 2 points. Can I go this even lower? So I have a circle in the point. So I have P0, all right, and I have P1. Let's just call it like P0 and P1. Can I even make this up? Okay, great. And my what I'm trying to find here is the point P. Let's call it P, that lies on the circle, and then there is this radius R. So basically my knowns are x0 and y0, and this is P0, R, and P1, which is x1 and y1. Y1. And this is what I know. Actually, let's put this here. So, okay, and the question is, what is P equals x, y, let's put x, p, y, p, such that the distance between P0 and P equals R. And that's the question. Of course, by the way, there's another one here. This is also true. And this is what while the other variant gives me the plus minus thing, because you get the one on the other side too. So the way you solve this apparently is by the following fact. Is basically so the way at least I thought about it when after chatting a bit with Claude and like it was giving me a bunch of options and all of that, I ended up with the following case. Let's assume that P0P, let's just call this P P0PP is like how do you call it? The hypotenuse? Hypotenuse. I think I got another name. Hypotenuse. Hypotenuse. Okay. It's a hypotenuse. It sounds so weird. Wait, can edit stuff? Oh my god. It doesn't. Actually, oh, that's quite nice. You can do this shit. Alright, okay, cool. But you can also do it from this side. It's a bit harder to do it on this side because you need to be at the right distance, not too close because you're right, not too far because it doesn't take it into account. So it's not like the most ergonomic thing. So it works if you go a bit next to it and then, so let's see how far we have to go. Okay, so you can go close enough to it and then you can do stuff. So you do this and then you do this. Interesting. So this is a hypotenuse of a triangle that I would call maybe P0P and another thing, but this is a hypotenuse. That means there is a 90-degree angle on the other side. So basically you would have kind of this case. So let's say this is PP, this is P0, and you have a 90-degree, but it's here. And not only that is there, but it's that one such that you have, this is a bit badly drawn, but it's the one where you go from P0 on the y-axis, on the x-axis, and on the y-axis. So let me better draw it and I will show you. So what I'm trying to say is that this particular triangle here, right? So and this is where the 90-degree thing is. And then there's a secondary triangle that goes all the way through here. And it's also 90 degrees. Now, does this hold for all of them? I think, because if you put P1 below, like the 90 degrees is off. So it needs to be like tangent to the circle, kind of. Yeah, I need to find like the x component and the y component of PP, and that's what I'm doing. Find the x component and the y component, right? So it's just whatever the projection is on the x-axis and on the y-axis. And this should work for any, so I'm just trying, maybe this doesn't work, so, okay, make it black again. So let's say I have this, and I have the point here. You need to find the x component and the y component of this, and I think the x component and the y component of this is this. And it still works. Right? Basically, it's the x component and the y component, basically, on the plane. Okay, and probably goes on all the sides, because if you have it here, then the point is here, the x component, y component is here. So everywhere you have this opportunity to build this triangle. And now let's add some notations here. So we know that this is r, right? So we know it. Now let's mark this as the distance. So let's just call it d. The distance. So d is basically the distance between P0 and P1. So let's note d equals the distance between P0 and P1, and this is basically I'll call it x1 minus x0 squared plus y1 minus y0 squared, and this is the basically how you would write it. And maybe this is also sometimes put like this p0, p1, and the norm of it, kind of. And that would be like the vector p0, p1. But maybe let's just not write this here, because it. So I'm just noting this as a distance, like the L2 distance. Okay. Now let's also add a bunch of things. So let's say I put the blue. Okay, and this allows me to have like two of them right now. So that means I can do the following. So let's say this particular thing is called how would I call them? A, B, and this particular thing, like the entire thing, by the way. So this one is the entire thing. This, yeah. I think that makes more sense. So we just yeah, I would call this C, and I would call this thing D. All right. And what we know that these two triangles are not symmetrical. What's the name of the thing? They're called similar. Yeah, similar triangles. They are similar triangles, and there's an angle here that is shared between them. I mean, all the angles are shared between them actually, but this one, let's call it alpha. Right? So that's why usually, and then you can also say like this one is like the same as this one because this one is 90 degrees and that one is shared, so this one could be say is better. But I will not, and it's equals to this by. So I will not do that because it's kind of implied. So we have this, and then there is a definition, but we don't even know, don't even need to go to the definitions here. But there is a definition of like the cosinus. Right, so what's the cosinus of alpha? And maybe we could like go to Wikipedia for this. So cosinus definition on a triangle. Actually, this is exactly. So the cosinus definition is basically this side over the hypotenuse. So it's the closed side adjacent over the hypotenuse, and the sinus definition is the opposite over the hypotenuse. That means in our case, if we go back to this, it would be A over D. So it's A over D. But at the same time, it is, I'm sorry, it's A over R. Yeah, it's A over R, because R is the hypotenuse in the small triangle. It is C over D. Alright, and then if you do the same for the sinus, you get B over R equals to D over D. Fine. So that means from those two things, from whichever, you will get the following. Basically, you will say A equals R over D times C. And this is like the, okay, I don't know how to write nicely. So writing is not that easy if you don't practice it. It's R over D. So this is like a ratio. And you get the same thing here. Is basically B equals R over D times big D. And you can see like this thing, we call it like a ratio, which is the R over D, which is basically how big is the small hypotenuse with regards to the big hypotenuse, right? And based on these two things, you get the following. So basically, you can say that the B component is R over the D component, and A component. Okay, so you do that. Right, cool. And now the question is, okay, what is this point PP? And the point PP basically is the point X and the point which is A, and the point which is B. And you could say that point PP is basically A0 times 0B, because it's like the X, this is like the Y axis, which is basically AB, right? And this is kind of exactly what I'm doing over here. Okay. And what this tells you is basically that the point PE equals the following. It's R over D times C and R over D times D, which is kind of R over D times CD. And who is CD is actually just P1. So it's R over D times P1. And that's all. And you know P1, you know where it is. You know R over D, because you know D, you know R. So this is exactly what I implemented here in the function called, the function called circle, let's do this, get closest point on circle. So you get x1, r1, x2, y2, so it's the same stuff. You get the ratio, oh no, this is the distances, I'm sorry. This is D, the ratio, and then you just put, okay, so this is the ratio times this, and the ratio times this, right, which is just the x and y components. And oh yeah, by the way, so basically I kind of misled you here a bit, because you have basically P is actually P0 plus this thing, because otherwise this would be, yeah, basically this would be if you were in the 0, 0 coordinate system, but you are in the coordinate system starting from P0. So that means you need to add P0 over there. And if you do that, and there's a nice thing about this kind of examples, collision, and you circle, and you get that, right? And it's nice. And then you can also do the collision. Collision is actually much easier than getting the points. All right, so the next thing I'm trying to do, and this is where maybe I need a bunch of help. So I will need to do the following. So this one was from Sodium Stream, and kind of he says that there are 3 cases, and that this solution can be solved in 1 dimension, then you can expand to the second dimension. And I'm trying to see I mean I know from his thing that it works, but I'm just trying to like implement it myself, just to get like a feeling for it. So he says that you should start with the simple case of 1 dimension. So this is the 1 dimension, right? In 1 dimension, you're trying to find the closest point on a line between, the closest point on a line towards another point. So that means you get 3 cases. You get the case where you are on the left of the line, that means you are P1. You get the case when you are in the middle of the line somewhere, so you get P2, you can be anywhere in the middle of the line. You get the case when you are outside of the line, so you are PT, so that means somewhere outside. But you know you are on the line, so every time you are still on the line, right? It's just, I mean, okay, this is a segment. So let's put it like this. This is the closest point on the segment. If I want to be like completely correct, like so the segment, right? So this is the segment here, and this is the line. So let's line. And you have 3 cases. You are on the left side, on the right side, or in the middle. And this is what I'm trying to first do. And I have this second function, which I call get closest point on, I mean, if it's on box, or maybe on a rectangle, but I will first solve the 1D case and then expand 2D. Okay, well, yeah, I did a small oopsie, but not anything very bad. I'm trying to charge the Remarkable as well, so it's not. By the way, does the stream even work? Let's see. Maybe it doesn't. Oh, it totally does. No, probably there's better people streaming. Like, everybody's doing game stuff, right? Real engine physics, yeet. Yeah. And so many people trying to do this. It's impossible to like compete in this, but it's fine. Like, I'm not competing. And look at them, like, this is so nice. Like, look how many things he has here. Wow. So many people streaming. Wow. Physics is my game. I mean, yeah, me too. What language is he working with? I mean, everybody's using. Are we doing the same thing? Oh my god, his circle looks like that. But maybe it's for a reason. But why is everybody like doing C++? Or maybe this is C. I think it's C++. U8. I cannot see. It's C++. But it's fine. Like C++ makes so much sense, and everybody's doing this nowadays. I don't know exactly why, but somehow I'm also in this place. But as you can see, like, I'm trying my best to do something. But I'm doing it in Python, and I think doing it in Python adds another dimension. The fact that you really have to be efficient about your shit, and you really need to understand how many objects you create. And in Python, it's so easy to create objects. All right. So let's see. Get closest point on rectangle. What data do I need? So basically, I say get points on the circle closest to the mouse. Okay, so that means I need to get the mouse, and the mouse should be the same as here. But now before this, I need to get like the rectangle, and in order to get the rectangle, I think I need to get left and right. I have a small problem with these things. I think I would like to have properties on this shit. Yeah, basically, property defects. Can I do this? And without like being so mad that I get points. I think this is important. Like, not using this very often, but when I use it, it's yeah. Laptop is not the best. Unfortunately, I mean the laptop is good. I don't know, there's stuff that's not the best here. Yeah, I wonder. So this is supposed to return a numpy array. I wonder if I can do it better. What if I do it like this? Res equals res.x, res.y equals x1. What if I do it like this? Will that work? Res equals. I don't like creating so many I think for this one I can do res equals res dot a, res dot y, res dot z, res dot r, res dot p, res dot q all equals res 06 res, yeah, 03. Is this something that's sane? Because I kind of don't like how I send this by the decomposed forms. Maybe it's fine. Let's try for this one to send it differently. So let's try to do, so basically I need to do top left, bottom right. So I need to do top left is a point 2D, bottom right is a point 2D, and then I need like mouse, I guess, or other point, the point 2D, and you get like a point 2D. So that means, okay, so if I follow the same things I basically described here, you need to see, are you, so this one is p1.x, because I'm just trying to do on the x-axis. So let's see, which case am I on? And in order to find which case you are on, so the y coordinate will be just top left dot y, because I'm not doing, oh, that doesn't work. Let's see, maybe it works. And then the AI viewers, look, I have AI viewers, holy shit, on stream. Ooh. What do you mean AI viewers? Well, in the sense that they are also chatting. Jesus, that's fine, I guess. And then the x coordinate should be based on this logic. And I think I remember from studying stream that you can do this with min and max. So basically, but maybe let's try to do it the ugly way first. So let's try to see where we are. So which case are we in? So maybe you do it like this. If basically, so L is top left and R is bottom right. So maybe let's even do it like that. Top left dot x, bottom dot x. So if my point, that means other point dot x is smaller than L, x equals L, right? Else other point how do you put this? L smaller or equals, let's put it like that. Other point that at x smaller than R, x equals other point at x, else there's only one case left, which is x equals R. And then you do return point to B, x1. This work, let's see. And then I will optimize it, but let's see if it works. So get closest point. So in which case am I? I'm a rectangle circle? I think I'm rectangle. Wait. No, I think I'm circle rectangle. Yeah, I know the circle rectangle case. Circle rectangle, this case. So I want to find like the point on the x-axis, and I give the top left. So let's see. So circle rectangle, that means I have so draw circle. That's not enough. So I need the, okay, so this is the center. Now from center to get top left and bottom right, you need let's see. Top left should be not sure if this is half length or full length. Draw rectangle. Yeah, I wish I had like a top left, bottom right, and maybe I do another version of the same thing. I don't. Yeah, I don't. I don't know what the rectangle is though. But it's fine. So we can test. But I think this should be full length. That means I need to divide. So top left should be point to the rectangle position of 0 minus rectangle size of 0 over 2 and rectangle position of 1, right? As you go to the left, actually no, you need to also go up. That means rectangle size 1 over 2, and your bottom right is the same but the other way around, which means you put a plus here and you put a plus here. Yeah, and then you should get the point x1, I mean c comes from xr1, xr2 equals get closest point on a rectangle, and you should get top left, bottom right, and mouse position found mouse post at y. Alright, and then you should get draw circle of this thing, but it's xr and xr. So I'm not expecting this to work. Out of the box, but who knows? Let's see. Maybe maybe I'm able to do this first try, and I'm not. It's interesting. Doesn't seem like it's not working. It's just it's offset somehow. I think it's offset. But why? Why is it offset? A rectangle pose. Should I get rid of this? No, that's not it. So it's offset a bit. Okay, maybe I figure it out from how it's offset. So this definitely works, but the center is a bit messed, I think. Can I draw the center just to curiosity? It should be a rectangle pose, I think. And then it's so big. Yeah, I see like the center is not in the center, basically. Oh, because draw rectangle doesn't ask you for a center, it asks you for a top left. Interesting. This is top left. Top left size. Yeah, maybe I should specify that. This is top left. Huh. That means this one is like this. I think rectangle post is already. No, it's not. But you can do it like this. And bottom right then is without these things. Okay. And then I mess it up a bit, but I can fix it. And this is bottom right. I think now, yeah, cool. Let's do this little thing here. So we have the point on the first thing. So I have the point on one axis. So this is exactly what Soldering did on his stream initially. Now, the way I did it here, I do it without min and max. And I think I should do it with min and max because the code is ugly. But let's see, how can I do this? So I have like three cases, as I said right here, okay? So I have this one, which means it's on the left side. So that means it's the minimum between P1 and L. That means you get the left part. And then you need to do the maximum between, wait, so this is the left side. If my point is on the left, this would be the minimum, this would be the maximum. But how do you put them together? How do you put the two cases together? So this side is max, this side is min. Then the question is, who is this guy? I think it's the minimum between the min and the max. Alright. But I think it doesn't matter. I think you can do it in both cases. It can be the minimum of the maximums or the maximum of the minimum. I think both should give you the same thing. Let's try a bit like the thing. So this is like the left side, and then this is the right side. And the question is, which one of those do you pick? And my assumption is that you need to pick the minimum of them. Left side, right side. But I don't think I'm correct. Where is that? Quite interesting. Because it's sleeping. Okay. Truth. It's not. Because yeah, the minimum always goes. Okay, so but the maximum goes on the other side. Yeah, so it's not like this. I'm doing something bad here. Maybe I should do like this, but I don't know how to prove it. I think it works in both. It doesn't. Okay, this one. And if I do maximum here, yeah, it's also bad. Holy shit, I don't know how to There's no, there's something broken here. Because you don't have any concept of an R here. So this one is basically telling me, what is it telling me? It's like, yeah, what the fuck is on the left side? I don't know, how do you compress this? Now now I have a problem. Nope, screen share is dead. Yeah, share screen, man. Okay, so how do we accept the connection? I'm trying. No, press the wrong button, Jesus. Come on. Yeah, there we go. Alright. Definitely using some WebAssembly. Oh. Failed to connect to room. Not get connection offer. I'm trying, dude. Oh my god, it broke something. Oh, Jesus. I mean, it worked for like 3 times. Okay, let's try again. Present with screen share. Yeah, it stopped working. Literally stopped working. I don't know what the fuck happened. It worked for like one. Accept. Yeah, I'm trying to accept. That's fine. Yeah, okay. I don't need that. No, it's working. Super nice. Why did you stop working? And what happened between those two? I have Wi-Fi. I'm connected to Wi-Fi. I don't know, I'm just refreshing. So the problem is I don't know how to solve this, and it would be nice if, okay, I will try to fix it on my tablet and then come up with some. So basically I had to collapse this. So right now you have this if else, which to be honest probably is better than using min and max, because min and max is like comparison here and comparison here. So basically what I need to do is the function f that gets 3 points, gets left point r, and returns a single one. Load. Load. And you do this crap. But instead of other point dot text, this is just, and you're like res. then you do top left dot x, other point dot x, it doesn't matter, like you need a single point, so that means bottom right dot x. Okay. And for y you get to do the same, but yeah, with the y components, right? I think this is how you do it on both dimensions. Yeah, and this is how you do it on both dimensions, and it's great. But I'm like this thing I don't know how to compress it. So if p is smaller than L, get L. So this is like return L. This is return P. Return R. This is how I would do it if it was and basically what you're trying to do is saying L is actually the minimum between L and P. Can you do it like this? Minimum L2. Is this the same? It's not. Yeah. Okay, this is maximum. Wait. Because you need the other bad boy. No, this is not maximum. And it gets fucked. And yeah, you probably can do if P R greater than P return R. P. I don't know how to collapse it. Oh shit, I broke it. Ah, because it's not enough. Yeah, you need what? Why is this not okay? I don't understand actually. Well, there's definitely something broken. There's something broken here which I don't fucking understand. So we know that P is on the right, is either in the middle or on the right. We know that. So we have to set this here. P greater or equal than L. And it still doesn't properly work. Like when it's in the middle, it doesn't. It returns R. That's how it is. What? No, it didn't work. Okay. Now we're talking. Maybe this is enough. I think I can compress it now in return L if P minus L, else P if P else R. And that means else P if this is mean PR, right? Yeah, okay. So we're getting somewhere. And this side, L, if P is smaller than L, else this other quantity, that means is L. So this is like another minimum, but let me understand exactly how to write it. By the way, this one. So it's minimum. I don't know how to write this better. How do you write this? This is not the your regular minimum function. It's a different thing. It's a different beast. How do you write it? If P is smaller than L, you return L. So that means it's something like minimum between L and between P and R. But this doesn't look correct. So this is not correct. Definitely not correct. Because you need a maximum in here, but I don't see exactly where. So it's L if P is smaller than L. Else is this other thing. And this other thing is not based on L, this is based on P and R. And that's the problem. Maybe I just keep it like this. Yeah, just put it like this. F equals let's do it like this. What's wrong with this? Returns one of the three cases, L, P2 or R. broke it. Oh, I break it. Hold on. It worked earlier like this. Oh, because the function was like, okay, that does the function, not this min. This min thing doesn't work. Returns one of 3 cases. Now it's working, great. The function called underscore f, classic. But now here's the thing. Okay, so that probably works. And now I get that points. And I can use those points to see if it's intersecting, right? Because if the point is on a smaller distance than the radius, then you get the closest point on a rectangle. So you use this to do what? To get color like that. So that means you do the following. Oh my god, the lag is amazing. So what do I do here? I do the following. So color if the distance. So I need a distance function. I keep doing the distance by hand. Where is the distance? I'm sure I did the distance by hand at least once. Here it is. And I'm pretty sure I did it more than once. Oh, because I do it doing it here too. Distance. That's fine, I guess. And I think, yeah, the function will be called rectangle sphere collision, right? No, it's sphere rectangle collision, and then you get what? You get a sphere. It's not sphere, circle. There's a boolean, and I need for circle. What do I need? I need like a center, basically. Where is the trying to see the API for this? Post one radius one. So it needs to be post 1 point 2D radius float, and then I need top left point 2D, bottom right point 2D, and it will return this crap. Where is it? Hello. The real pink mist. I don't know exactly when you posted. I'm sorry if I missed your message. What are you making? So basically I'm doing this like it's a very early prototype of a robotic simulator, and now we are at the point where we are just doing like collision detection, and this is probably things that if you are watching Twitch, probably you've seen others do. So basically doing collision detection. And right now I'm trying to do the case for when a circle intersects with a rectangle, but then I'm trying to use this function basically on the simulator itself, because the simulator has like only spheres, which are like 3D circles basically, and I'm trying to make the drones use boxes, and boxes are like 3D rectangles basically, and I'm trying to code the 2D version in this sandbox to see if they're intersecting, and then I will reuse this for seeing if a drone collides with an obstacle, which is the case here. Because right now, the way it happens is basically, if I can connect, so it's like a client server, so basically you control the drone through the network, but as you can see here, because they are spheres, the intersection is not very natural, like you get hits, just, I mean, it's not the best example probably, but what I'm trying to say is that it is not very reliable. The collision system is not very reliable because they are spheres, right? And like you would do this, and I mean maybe like this, and you wouldn't expect this to collide. They're not. It's not very natural for these things to collide like this. And that's what I'm trying to. I'm trying to improve the collision system. So it's a box against a circle, or against a sphere in this case. In order to do this, I have this sandbox where I do the same thing but on a 2D. And the way you do this is basically you're trying to find the closest point between your circle and your rectangle that lies on the rectangle. So that's the small circle, and that's the point again that is closest to your mouse in this case, but it is on the rectangle. And then the second thing you need to test if that yellow point is basically if it is inside a circle as well. So in this case they would collide because the yellow dot is closer to the center than the radius, and in this case they don't collide because the yellow dot is not inside the circle basically. And now since I have the point, I just need to test the distance between that point and the center. And this is how you get the closest point. I mean, this function used to be more readable. Now it's less readable, but the gist of it is, I can explain it again later, but I just want to see the collision working now. So I'm trying to use this point and just to check if it's closer or not than the center. In order to do that, I need to pass like this is the center, this is the radius, this is the box top left, and this is the box bottom right, and then you get the point that is on the box. I call it XR, YR. XR means X on the rectangle, Y on the rectangle, and I'm using this function that I did earlier. Now I need to, I pass top left, bottom right, and the other point is pos 1, which is the center of the circle. And then the check should be the following. I need to do the distance, which is, I think if I recall correctly, it should be like this. Should be pos 1 minus XR squared. Or maybe I should call it check, right? Plus pos 1 dot y minus IR, and this should be smaller than radius. And if it's like this, that means we are colliding. And let's see if this works. So if this is happening, and I need to take a mouse position here, the radius I think is mouse radius, and then I have the top left and bottom right, top left, bottom right, then the color is green. And now let's see if this works or I have bugs. Okay, so the point is still there, but now it should turn into red, and it doesn't. Oh, because I need to put red here. It still doesn't. It happened for 1 second, but it's not correct. Something is not correct. I wonder why. It happens, but not all the time. Something wrong with the radius, I think. Maybe I'm passing the wrong data here. So get closest point on rectangle. So I pass the mouse radius, top left, bottom right, and I do this. I pass top left, bottom right. Probably should call this center, so it's more obvious what it means. Oh, it needs to be radius squared. Yeah, that's the distance basically. Yeah, now it happens. Okay, cool. So this is basically, now we know if we are colliding with a box. And I will use the same thing to port it to the 3 dimensions. So I have the case for, I think I have all the cases. No, I don't have all the cases. I'm missing the box versus box case. So I have box versus circle, and circle versus box, as they are symmetric. And I have circle versus circle, and I can show circle versus circle by saying circle here, and it goes on the other thing. The circle versus circle is kind of the same. You find the closest point on the circle compared from the other center. So basically you draw this line, and then you find the 2 points on the line. One is on the right circle, one is on the left circle, and then you check if either of them has like the distance towards the other center closer than the radius. It's just, you know, just geometry math. Once you write it on like a pen and paper, you could get it. Cool. So now I need to expand this to 3D. And in order to expand this to 3D, basically I need to add everything in 3 dimensions, pretty much. One thing that I also need to do, so I have the circle rectangle, I need to do the rectangle circle, which is like the opposite. Rectangle circle means that the pointer is rectangle and the other one, so basically this case, I need to check when I am a rectangle and I collide with a circle. Because if you have like 2 types of geometry shapes, you have 4 cases. Actually you have 3 cases. You have the, let's say, box versus box, or rectangle versus rectangle. You have circle versus circle, and you have circle versus rectangle, because the other one is symmetric, so you can do it basically what I'm doing right now. Okay, so I have get closest point on circle. I need to get this thing. Basically the same function, but the center is the center of the box, so it's not top left bottom right, it's rather this thing. So this, maybe I could call this thing a center equals this bad boy. Now say center of 0 and center of 1, and get rid of all this stuff. And then I have this function, okay, not that one, this one. And the point now is center, so I need to do center of 0, center of 1. But this one is on this side, I think. Hold up, I'm doing something stupid now. This is the center of this, but I care about this. I don't care about this actually. I'm doing something stupid right now. I got a bit confused on my own variables. This is radius. This is the obstacle. And then I need to get top left and bottom right. I didn't care about this center, so maybe I could like say mouse center here, so it's obviously mouse center. But what I care now here is the top left and bottom right of the mouse. I need top left mouse, which is basically this one is top left mouse, I'm sorry. Top left mouse. Mouse top left. Yeah, that one is mouse top left. And mouse bottom right, which is the same thing but with a plus here. Yeah, and if I get mouse bottom right, I can put it here. And I think that's all. Okay, let's see if this works. So it should be a rectangle circle, the same thing. This is because I call it with circle rectangle collision, because these are not point 2D stuff. I need to do point 2D here. Okay. And now doesn't work. Why? Why don't you work? Otherwise it doesn't work actually. Oh, because I'm drawing it before. I need to draw it here. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so now I can collide a box with a circle, and I can collide a circle with a box, and I can also collide a circle with a circle. But I cannot collide a box with a box yet. And this one is the last case I need to implement. This doesn't work. Yeah, and this is the last case. But maybe before I do this, I try the I try to do this in 3D, because circle rectangle collision is actually a special case of sphere box collision, which is the same thing in 3D, and I care about the 3D part, so maybe I do that. Okay, get closest point. Okay, so this part should be correct. I need to get this in 3 dimensions. So let's just write it mechanically in 3 dimensions. So instead of circle rectangle, it should be sphere box collision, and this is a 3D, and I should get x, y, z, r, get closest point on box, top left, bottom right, center. And then I have the check, which is this, but I also need to add center.z minus zr, like this. Okay, so I have sphere box collision, and get closest point on box is this function, but for 3D. So the closest point on box is this, and I just add the same thing again here for the z coordinate. And this is why it's nice to do it on 2 dimensions, because if your math is correct the first time, you can just expand it to 3 dimensions, and it's simpler to have like a sandbox in 2 dimensions because you can just move the mouse, and then in 3 dimensions you kind of test it on the real simulator in my case, but it's easier to implement it in 2 dimensions. Now this one probably can go away, and I can use the box here, and basically I will do it like this and add a 0, or maybe actually the real case will be like this, top left of 1, okay, and you get a ZR here. Actually, this one is no longer relevant. I simply need to call the 3D sphere box collision. Yeah, I need to do it like this. How do I do it? Point 3D, center 0. Yeah, let's do it like this. Radius, point 3D, top left 0, point 3D, bottom right 0. So this is the circle rectangle collision. It calls the 3D variant and it adds a 0 at the end. And the 3D dimension calls the box. The box returns 3 points, the closest on the box, and then we just check if the distance is smaller than the radius. That means it's inside the box. I mean inside the sphere, I'm sorry. The closest point on the box is inside the sphere. Yeah, that's what I'm doing here. I think this should just work out of the box, but out of the box, get one box. Yeah, this one function was good. Yeah, that function was actually not that bad. As it was used on this other code. Top left 2D. Yeah, it was used just to print stuff, so something to get closest point on box and just convert everything to 3D. No, point 3D, top left 0, point 3D, bottom right 0, point 3D, other point 0. Well, as you can see, these are just wrappers on the 3D, and the 3D is basically was created from the 2D, so everything is like, okay. So let's see if everything still works. So circle, circle, I didn't touch this code. I have circle, rectangle, I messed something up, okay, 32, 3D. Get closest point on rectangle. Oh, because I need to do, yeah, I know what's wrong here. I need to do basically 0, 2 here. Yeah. Okay, and this one works again. And rectangle, circle. Rectangle. rectangle circle. It works. And yeah, basically I have created this function, which is sphere box collision, which is what I care about actually, because I already have sphere collision in the main code. I have a sphere plane collision, which is what I'm trying to get rid of. And now as I think about it, maybe I can test this function with the sphere plane collision. So I have a plane, the plane is the ground. So oh, it loads so hard. It's because I'm streaming and like everything is messed. So I have this ground plane. You can see it's just a small rectangle here on the ground. But right now it has like a special implementation for collision, which I don't like. I wish it was a box. And now if I think about it, I also have like the sphere box. I can change this to be boxes. So maybe it's enough for me to try on the 3D thing. So yeah, let's cover this problem. So the last one that I have not implemented is rectangle, and I will do. It's the last one I do basically. Okay, so let's just put this. Maybe actually. Alright, what if, okay, so I have small things, but probably I can commit those things separately. Okay, I need to refactor this so it's using point 2D and point 3D everywhere, because it doesn't look nice here. So it should be called center. This is radius, and this is other point. Other point minus center vertex. I think it's more legible to be like this. This is radius. This is x1 is supposed to be center vertex, center dot y, and it's supposed to return a point. So point to the. It's a bit hot here, though. By the way, are you still here? Are you following, or am I just incoherent, I guess? So I have this crap, then body the function needs to be point to E, needs to be, maybe circle cos is fine here. This needs to be point to E. I'm not sure if this will work anymore. Maybe it will. Will this just work like this? Rectangle size? Maybe it will. Just to make sure, maybe just let's try it. Let's try to run it again. Probably it will crash a bunch of times because I've added some changes. So let's say small changes with camera updates and plugin list. By the way, give me a second, I need to answer a message. Okay, I don't have a message. I was looking for some message. Oh, whoa. All right, cool. What do I have left? So on the coutings, I don't know exactly if I want to push this. I need to think about that one. Robotics. This is small fixing trajectory code. Trying to make like standalone commits with whatever I'm fixing. This were fixed before, not now. Now let's see if the collision thing still works. Collision 2D. Yeah, true. Circle, circle. Doesn't work anymore. I see, because this is no longer needed and you can do this. Okay, cool. And this works great. Circle rectangle. Okay, this works great. And then you have rectangle circle. And this one doesn't work. We need circle pose here. And point to the, like, I don't like having too many parameters. I'd rather use structures if I can. And in this case, I think it just reads better. Alright, let's add that. Add. Hope I will not be disappointed by this. I think you can always put, okay, you need top left, bottom right, fine. Maybe I can always put the check here, and then whatever else I'm doing here. Maybe just to, so it's easier to read the code. So put this thing here, mouse top left, mouse bottom right. Okay. Hey, mouse top left, mouse bottom right. I think this can be. Nah, it cannot be. Okay, I think this is the code for now. Let's try to integrate. So basically, what I want to do now is try to integrate sphere box collision. It chooses this get closest point on box. And let's just move this in the main code. So sphere box collision, get closest point on box. I'm going to get rid of this. And now here I need to call it, I think, AABB collider. Instead of plane collider, it should be AABB collider. And this one should be sphere box collision. Better said sphere AABB collision maybe. Because this is AABB means axis aligned bounding box. And in this case it's actually collision with an AABB. Because the box is not rotated. Maybe I should also try to implement, and I think I should implement that, right? Trying to implement. It will be like the closest point on the box, but that will also depend on its orientation. And the orientation will be based on its angle. I think that's not so complicated. I will probably have to update the code to work with that. Maybe it's easier to have both AABB and that because it allows you to optimize if you know like your objects don't rotate. Maybe it's cheaper than to do this rotation. And some objects may rotate, some objects may not rotate. And in terms of optimizations, you'd rather treat them differently because you do less operations. If you basically, if your box is rotated, you need to see its orientation because the closest point on the box is in a different plane. You need to rotate it. All right. So sphere AABB collision. Let's call it like that. Get closest point on AABB. Yeah. And I will probably have to do the 2D mode for oriented box, and I think that would be a great thing to do, but it's not yet at the moment. Okay, so I have AABB collider. And an AABB collider should basically be what? What is an AABB collider? It has like a, is it the same as here? It has a position and a size, but the size, the size is 3D now, because you have like a 3D box. And I think that's the only difference. It's no longer, because the plane was just a 2D thing. It didn't assume the third dimension. The third dimension was hard coded, so the plane was very slim, and I hard coded it in the scene object. I think here I would put just a very small. Where was it? Size. Oh, I do it in when I create the object plane. I put a small y, and then when I create the collider, I just ignore it. Interesting that I think this was bugged, but it's fine, because now we get rid of this completely. Because I can just remove this now. This will go away when there will be a B box. And now it's ready to go away. I no longer have this thing. This was like an entire object that I no longer have. There's no, it's an AABB collider. There's no this. And now I need to make sure that the collider for a cube object is an AABB collider. Size equals size, actually. Amazing. And now this one is a bit different. This is supposed to be draw. I like draw bone. Draw rectangle 3D. Draw. That's a good point. Draw cube actually. No, it's not a cube. Oh, it is a cube, but you have width, height, and okay, cool. That's self dot position. No, so physics data position to raylib width, height, length, self dot size. And I think this one is supposed to be like this. Okay, so this one should be like this. Make radius. Is it a thing anymore? Yeah, they have make radius. Ah, but I cannot do it like this. Fuck! I cannot do it like this. I remember why. Yeah. I don't like this function anymore. But what can I do? It's better than copying it everywhere. Maybe it's not better than copying it everywhere. Nah, fuck it. Let's keep it. Okay, so we have this, we have that, we have that. Okay, so what I need to do now, I need to... What do I need to do? I need to go on the scene object. And I need to... Basically, I need to implement the AABB collider. AABB collider. This. And... Oh, okay, it's already done here. It's already done here because I have this helper function. Check. Okay, maybe I should put that. That's a good point. I should do it like that. This is dist squared, better said, max dist equals radius squared. If check equals dist squared radius squared. Fuck. Okay, cool. So I have this. Will it just work? Let's see. What's the chance? Probably not. Should have some issues. Ground plane object. Okay, so that doesn't exist anymore. Okay, ground plane object. There we go. Let's go ahead and do this. Ground plane object. Yeah, because now there's no longer a ground plane object. Now all I have is a cube object, which is the ground plane. Scale, true. And 47. Oh, because like the radius is broken. Radius, okay, sphere AABB. What? Center radius. Top left, bottom right. Okay, so I messed up a bunch of things here. If B is an AABB collider, I need bottom right, which is the position plus different size. Point 3D has no attribute X, which sucks, by the way. Because this is exactly what I did here, by the way. And I was expecting this to work, but it doesn't. Why? Wait, I think I need to do sad. Oh my god, why is this not working? I always put breakpoints in this code, but okay. It's kind of shitty. Yeah. Probably better if I do it like this, but I don't like it. Okay, what's the radius? Why is the radius none? Line 78. A dot radius, and A is a sphere collider. For some reason, A, which is a sphere collider, is none, and it's the same here. I think I need to put an assert somewhere. Why is that? Can always do this, because I don't know exactly. I mean, I could look where I instantiated, but set radius is not none. I don't know exactly where this happens, and or why. Sphere collider, and it uses make radius, by the way, which is the function I wanted to get rid of. Very good. Just deleted the code. Okay, cool. We have. Okay, that doesn't work. Draw collider. Oh, because that's in server. Where is that assert? 107. But it's on a different function. Oh. I mean, what's the point of this? This weird. It's supposed to be AABB collider. Yeah, there you go. And you can even draw the ground now. Isn't that amazing? Okay, so the question is the collision working? That's what we are waiting for. Okay, I started another server. Client. The collision should work. Okay, I don't like the fact that the ground plane is kind of green. It doesn't work. I mean, something happens, clearly, but there's a bug. I don't know exactly. Somehow related to the center of something. Either of the sphere or of the, I don't know exactly how to bring this, so it's... Okay, I think this is how you should look at it. So it goes all the way to the middle, somehow. Doesn't find the point on the or maybe the distance is too small. It kind of finds the point on the why is this not working? Quite annoying. Got what? Intersection with the ground, so if I do it like this, well, that at least works somehow. Oh, because the plane is very small. Okay, let's try the hypothesis that I had earlier. So let's make the ground like thicker. Again, something with the center. How do I make the ground? Let's make this like 5, very thick. So as you can see now it's thicker. Okay. The question is, if I go in the ground now, will it like let me go a bit inside? Ah, wait, I'm hitting something else. Wait, what the fuck am I hitting now? Something broken. I'm hitting the ground. But I shouldn't. Yeah, there's a bug there. Okay, there is a bug. Oh, I could ask the clanker to look at the code, because I'm a bit tired. So the bug is definitely in collision somewhere. Wait, is the 2D example still working? But let's start from that. Is this still working? Get closest. And the problem is with what? The circle, rectangle. But it works on the 2D case. And the other way around, rectangle, circle. But I don't think the issue is this. It works fine on the 2D. Problem is somewhere in the collision itself. Top, left, bottom, right, center. Yeah, I think top, left, and bottom right of my thing is correct, but I don't know why. Yeah, it's funny how the position is given by the top left. Not necessarily wrong, but still. I don't even know how to debug this kind of bugs. Yes, kind of assumes that it should be like that though. What is it like that? Is this drawing? It should be correct. Oh, let's ask Claude. I think it's finally time to ask Claude. Trying to implement let's see what the clanker is saying. I think the code itself is fine, but I still need to wait till I merge it. Check out my AABB solution. Yeah, I probably need a way to investigate this in a smarter way. Found it! Of course, draw rectangle uses top left, draw cube uses something fucking else. Minimal. Yeah, I was thinking it's something like that. So, AABB collider, but I think it's not just AABB collider. I think I need to change the scene object and basically physics state about wait, what? But I never used draw cube, dude. Now I realized. It told me something about draw cube. Oh, because I'm using it here. Okay. So it's like length, no, it's width, height, length. I think it's width, height, length. Wait, they're saying that that's the entire change. Let's see. Maybe. How do I even check this? I guess. It's so hard to validate this, right? But I think it's correct. Yeah. Okay, what about the ground? Because that's like another one. Oh, yeah. Cool. And I think the ground is still like fat. Right now it's not fat. Let's make the ground fat. Yeah, let's make the ground fat. Holy shit, the lag. When I stream it's so annoying. I don't know, I need to fix my setup because definitely this laptop should be able to support it. Maybe I need to use NVIDIA. Yeah, I think it works. I think it just works. Yeah. Cool. So I have this. Yeah, I need to do something. This is a bit annoying. So basically, where is it? Rendering collision mode. Yeah, we also did this. But there's one thing that's annoying me here. So okay, robot. If it's collidable, draw collidable. So but there's and physics state that position different 0, 0, 0. But yeah, because I don't like how I get. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Because now it's not so trivial to. Basically, it's more annoying to debug things now. Like, nice. Amazing. Nice. Nice, 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 nice. Cool. By the way, let's ask the ChatGPT to make all the code review. The 2D one shouldn't be influenced because here I'm using draw rectangle. Yeah, I don't think anything should be influenced. Sphere AABB collision. I already get top left, bottom right. Okay, that thing is doing that thing is doing that. Yeah, this was quite a long stream, but now I have bounding box collision and sphere collision, and because the robots are still spheres, it means basically, I think I also need to change the race. Yeah, the race can also be a box, not a sphere. I think it's better. Maybe. Oh yeah, leave it as sphere. I could leave it as sphere, it doesn't matter. I mean, that thing should be a flag, and the flag will be a box, but it's not a flag right now. Alright, what else? So let's make a pull request. I use this pull request thingy. Maybe, yeah, I think I should close the stream. I have this latency test, and I want to see if I've added latency, but it will be influenced by the fact that I'm streaming. Basically, I have this a bunch of tests, right? Add a collision and box here, box here. Sphere box checks, sandbox in the game, round in the game, in the scene. Yeah, so what I was saying earlier is that I have these plots which basically track if I have regressions, and now there's some noise here and there. I don't think this too is anything relevant on the last commits because I didn't change anything on that side of the code. So yeah, I think it was some noise around here, but basically I'm trying to keep the thing at around 30 milliseconds for 100 robots. N equals 100 is 100 drones at the same time. Only one is connected, but there are 100, and because there are 100, you do like O of n squared collision checks, because I don't have any smart that are going to the collision checks, and this blows up quite a lot when you have 100 robots, obviously, because it's squared. And what I'm trying to see here is that I don't get regressions, even in this quite sad example where I have so many robots that are close to each other, because you need to do all these extra checks. But I think it's a good example because it shows how like how the thing scales, right? As you can see, like for 100 robots, like I did some optimization at the beginning here, but then everything like it was around 30, and it keeps being around 30 milliseconds, which is a good amount. All right, what else do I have on this miner? Holy shit, so many. Oh. Concerning hack. Okay, so I need to do something on collision side. The check is broken, right? For this, and here I'm using .item. So this is just okay. Concerning hack. Yeah, maybe I have another one, because hear me out. But no, that's such a terrible hack. Holy shit. This is in simulator, which means I can do the following. Objet diferit is not same object, so 0. Which I don't think it's true. I understand it's a hack, but I need it because I don't like how it looks. Yeah, does it work? Yeah, it works. Okay, doesn't work. So it's a typo. Where is the typo? I don't know what this server 235. What the fuck is that? 235. Okay, so let's try to run the tests. I think there should be some issues probably. So the test that I have currently is this library called typeguard, which is a runtime check of all the types in the code, and usually Python is not like strongly typed or whatever, but in this case it checks like everything. Basically it adds an assertive instance to all your calls, which is like amazing. Okay. Now what the fuck is with this one? So robot may not be decelerating. What the fuck is happening here? So connect and move. Connect and move. By the way, I can do this. So I can do connect and move, run. And if I have a server started and I run it on the same port, I can see the end-to-end test. Okay, but it doesn't work. interesting. That one is running the test as well. Yeah, I'm kind of trying to end the thing, but I want to have like a green check mark on this task. It was a pretty long stream. I think I've been streaming for what, 3 hours maybe? I don't know. Doesn't say here how long, but it feels like 3 hours. Yeah, 3 hours and 15, I can see that. But do I have a regression? That's my biggest fear right now. I cannot really know if I have a regression or not because my laptop moves so fucking bad due to this like streaming that I don't know if the regression is justified. I mean, if there is a regression or not, basically. Maybe I should wait for this to run because in GitLab it runs better than it runs on my machine right now. Simply because it's a different machine. Also like surprisingly like hot right now, and I don't know exactly why. Something happened. Oh yeah, so this is what I'm saying. Blah blah blah. Unit test. What unit test, dude? Okay, so it says it's complete. Oh, it also ran this thing. I'm pretty sure this one had a huge. Didn't have a huge regression. It had a huge regression and n equals 20, but then what the fuck knows what happened? This is not reliable, as you can see. I will run this with the stream closed, and I'm curious how it looks. Alright, so let's merge it, and I think that's it. Thank you for whoever is, if anybody watching this. I will probably continue at some point to stream again. I will work on this. I work on this like almost daily whenever I have time, because it's like my personal project and it's not something I also have a job. But I think I'm doing some progress. It's a bit hard to like stream. Also very black. Like look how black I am. Holy shit. I'm not that black in real life. I don't know, saying that's a bad thing.